Welcome to Politics Uncensored, a product of Uganda Radio Network. Again, we are here with Yusuf Serunkuma. Some call him Doctor. Me, I call him Yusuf. Today we are going to talk about, this is not a formal conversation. I mean, this is not a formal interview like we have been having. We are going to have a conversation with Yusuf on what is happening. I understand all of you know that there is a problem now in the Middle East. America and with Israel attacked Iran on Saturday. Was it when? I forget the date. Saturday last week. And that attack has spread in the entire Middle East, and actually it has even left the boundaries of the Middle East. It has spread to areas outside the Middle East. So even here in Uganda, the problem has come because on many fronts, we have more than 1 million Ugandans living in the Middle East. Number one. Number two, the other issue is that what happens in the Middle East, the normally say doesn't stop in the Middle East. Today I went to the petrol station and I found fuel had increased by 100 shillings. So, and it's just the beginning. So, what is in the Middle East doesn't end in the Middle East. That's why we are going to discuss that with Yusuf. And I've said today is not our normal discussion. It's having a freewheeling interview. So Yusuf, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Tell me, first of all, like I've said, it's not a structured interview. So what do you make so far? First of all, when America with Israel attacked Iran last Saturday, last week, first of all, do you anticipate that it was going to happen as soon as it happened, or you were also taken by surprise?
No, once I was taken by surprise. I think I was heartbroken. I've been expecting an attack on Iran for a very long time. But I was just heartbroken that finally it had happened. If you've been following the Middle Eastern politics, you know that Israel has been planning to attack Iran for a very long time. Like really long time. But there's no explanation now, but just why is the attack. In the context that you've been planning to attack this country for about 30 years now. So you can't say now is the issue. Because for 30 years you've been planning. So I was just heartbroken that finally it is happening. The entire Middle East has been destroyed. From the genocide in Gaza, and then the collapse of the Syrian government under Bashar al-Assad. And then, Afghanistan has just overcome a long occupation by the Americans. And now Iran. It's very heartbreaking. And as you can imagine, as somebody who studies the Horn of Africa, with the connections which are very vivid to me, so it was heartbreaking that it had actually happened. Right? It was heartbreaking on the one hand, but also on the other, it was a nervous condition I was in, anticipating a response. I was looking forward to a better resounding response, and I can tell you.
And that before we go to
it looks very promising. It looks very encouraging now.
Before we go to the response, first of all, why do you think that it has taken Israel 47 years to do what it has done now? But why do you think it happened now and not any other time in the last 47 years that they have been wanting to attack?
I mean, there's been an argument that Israel has been waiting for a Damba president to force them into conflict with Iran. But I think it's Israeli strategy that if you want to have this greater Israeli project, you have to take it bit by bit. That you need to start with your nearby neighbors. So you start with Lebanon and Jordan, and then you keep expanding. So you start with Gaza, and then you can weaken Syria. I mean, you keep amassing territory. And you know that the biggest resistance is in Iran. But so you don't quickly jump into conflict with Iran. I think Israel has been trying to sort of generate the amount of armor and alliances needed to embark on the biggest resistance base. And I think that's why it has taken this long, and I think it felt like after the attack on Gaza and in the 12-day war, I think Israel felt like this was their moment, now or never. We need to take on Iran now, otherwise in the next maybe 5-10 years, it could be a different Iran. So I think it was that we grabbed the moment.
But the 12-day war, we are made to believe, we are made to understand that it is Israel that asked for the war to end. It asked the United States to get involved and end the war. So it means it was not winning. So if you fail to win in the 12-day war, what makes you think that you would win subsequently, 8 months later?
Yeah, they did. Well, they were losing. They were taking a lot of shots, as Donald Trump said it. But I think Iran didn't get a decisive victory also. And I think internally they were grudging that possibly if America is giving us its full weight, we can actually take on Iran. They felt they couldn't win just on their own, that they felt this is the moment to have the full weight of American backing. And if you get American backing, you can actually deal a fatal blow to Iran. I think this is the calculation, right? The other reports, which are difficult to substantiate, people saying that, Netanyahu is interested in going to war with Iran because it saves him from the corruption scandal he's facing inside Iran. It's difficult to verify that, especially if you are as far as we are. I'll reduce that, I'll downplay that, and I think the bigger point is that because the war has been, every Israeli prime minister has been looking for this moment. And I think Netanyahu felt like this is the moment, we do it now, especially having had a camera 12 days, now we can do it, let's go for it, and we get the American backing. And it was beautiful timing for the Israelis that it coincided with the release of the Epstein files, right? And the Epstein files are the absolute blackmail for American politicians. And I think so, Donald Trump is heavily implicated in the Epstein file, and so I think it succumbs to the bullying. And but
it's the one who has the files. So if you have the files, so you can determine whether to release. He has actually refused to release 3 million.
Nobody knows the extent of what is.
Maybe the upside to that is that because now you have the files and therefore what they have been using to blackmail you, it is with you. So that will stop moving forward to be really something to have against politicians.
My assessment. I think the files are not exhaustive. The files are incriminating, but they're not exhaustive. I think there's much more that Israel has, because Epstein was a Mossad agent. There's much more that Israel has that is not in the files and can use it. And I think Trump has had a taste of that privately. He could just add it to the Epstein files. These videos are part of Epstein. So and I think it was a beautiful moment. The bowling. Also Epstein is a big deal in this conversation. But then you need to add the value of IPAC. But you have, and this is a good moment because you see after Gaza, you see the influence of IPAC is starting to reduce. And in this moment, politicians are starting to see IPAC money as a liability. It has to happen now. It's now or never. Otherwise,
because every single day you lose influence.
So we do it now. We blackmail Donald Trump as much as we can. We use this opportunity when there's still a bit of influence for IPAC, and then we've had a test run, and we think now we can actually take down Iran. Let's go for it, And I think this is where we are right now.
And what do you make of the response, the Iranian response? Because in the previous altercations we've seen Iran taking days, promising, but now it was swift. So what do you make of the response? First of all, the quick response, and number two, the veracity of the response.
I think first of all, it's, we tend to think Mossad and CIA are very on top of the game in terms of intelligence. And now I think we know 100% they're not as smart as they claim to be. Because both of those agencies had no idea about Iranian capabilities. They had no idea about Iranian anger. They even don't have an idea about Iranian domestic politics. They can't even read the room to see how will Iranians react if we actually killed their supreme leader, right? But to the question you asked me, the response is as brutal as it has been because Iranians are very dignified people and very passionate. but to the point of taking out a supreme leader amidst negotiations. Iran has to return to the table to negotiate the nuclear deal. Not because they're not fulfilling their obligations in the deal that Donald Trump left, but their patience, their nobility and willing to return. Let's go through the gymnastics of these people. Let's continue negotiating, and they continue negotiating. But at some point, the patience reached this breaking point, because you see, we are in the midst of a negotiation, and we have almost agreed to every demand these people are putting on the table. And then they attack in the middle of the negotiation and kill our supreme leader. See, at some point, patience reaches breaking point, and they said, let's go out for it. They've crossed the Rubicon in terms of humiliation and arrogance. Let's go for it. And I think that explains the response. And unlike before, I think this time Iran wants a decisive victory. It wants a decisive victory. But America has to come to its knees. Israel has to be obliterated. They've said this time the response has to be brutal and thorough. That the victory has to be decisive. That the Israelis have to have this moment of never again. Never again, not like never again suffering a Holocaust, but never again trying to bully our neighbors in the region. And I have seen, you read places and people are saying, of course, Iran ultimately will lose this war. But it has taught already the lessons are at home in America and Israel. Do you think Iran will lose the war? I mean, if you look at most of the informed analysis on the conflict, it's unlikely that America will win this war either. It's extremely unlikely, with all its power, because America boasts of absolute aerial power, right? Which means it has to fly fighter jets into Iranian airspace and take out ballistic launch pads, ballistic missile launch pads. Now, so far, the strategy of Iran was very convincing. You take out their bases, you make them useless. They have those bases where they can't use them. So in their response, which means they've been planning for a very long time, in their response, they took out all the 13 bases. And then first that make them blind. They can't see what they're doing. Take out their raiders. They took out the biggest raiders in the region. I think 3 of them are now useless. Right? So the strategy was on point, which shows years of patience and calculating and drawing scenarios. Make the bases useless. Make them blind. They can't see where they're going. And then push them as far as possibly could, that they now have to start their journeys to bomb Iran from way far.
From Europe.
From Europe. They can't even see where they're going, right? And then secondly, Iran has the upper hand in this game. Because right now, the ballistic missiles are landing. Because really they blinded Israel and they blinded the Americans. So their ballistic missiles are landing. Right? The missiles are landing to the bases they want. I see Iran taking shots too, but I think their calculation is we need to bomb Israel to the point that it can't shoot back. To the point that it can't shoot back. So they're attacking the military side of Ben Gurion Airport. They've attacked Nevatin base. They've attacked all these bases inside Tel Aviv, from which launches can happen. So they did just take out the military bases America boasts about, but also take out bases inside Tel Aviv. But then secondly, hunt down American soldiers wherever they go. Hunt them down. It's difficult for them.
The American soldier is on the run now.
He's on the run now. But also, they're not holding back. If the planning, and I think they've taken lessons from 1953, if Americans and Israelis are planning inside an American embassy, anywhere in our neighborhood, we're going to bomb it. As they've showed us. They took out the American embassy in Saudi Arabia because 120% they were planning from there. And you see, embassies are territories of those countries. So all those are legitimate targets. So this is a war. All rules are.
But did you anticipate that Iran would go as far as it has gone? Because all of us knew it would retaliate. But to go to all the bases, to all the embassies, to all the infrastructure that belongs to the Americans, do you think that they would go as much as they have gone?
I don't think even Iranian nationals knew, because I think they've kept their capabilities as a top secret. They've only spoken about them, but we didn't know how capable they are. As we speak now, the new supersonic missile, the Kormasha, we knew it was capable, right? Because we've seen videos and animations of it, but we didn't know how much destruction it can do. I mean, the few videos that have been able to be sneaked out of Israel are very telling about the amount of destruction it is causing, right? But also now that you look at the world, everybody now trying to copy the Swarm drone, the Shahid drones, because we knew about these drones, but we didn't know how effective they were. I don't think even Iranians knew, so it would be difficult for somebody based in Uganda to actually know. I just say the battleground is impressive on the Iranian side. Nobody knew.
And the name of the English name Shahid means a martyr.
Yeah.
So you send martyrs in forms of. So when you destroy it, it's okay because the stuff they really matter.
The entire idea is that they should be destroyed.
Yes.
And in the process that you deplete the interception capabilities of your enemy, because these are cheap, $40,000, and you're shooting $1 million missile to intercept 40,000, and you see that the very difficult thing is they put you in a dilemma because you don't want to waste your.
But when you don't shoot it down, it's going to cause
damage.
Yes.
Not as much damage, but it still cause damage.
Yes.
Right. So you have no choice but to shoot them down. And Iranian production of this thing is on an industrial scale. They're constantly producing this thing. You see, and they are launching them from simple tracks. You see, like simple tracks, not even maguru kumi. It's like simple tracks.
Yes.
You can shoot down an elephant, it doesn't care. The production cost of a Shahid drone, 5 of them put together, is cheaper than buying a car in America. Right? By making a missile, one of these instances, $1 million. It's very expensive. So if you compare the unit cost of intercepting these small ones and the productivity capacity, the rate at which Iran is able to replenish them, it doesn't match. So there's no way. You see, America is left with one item in their arsenal. It's bringing a nuclear weapon into this game. That's the only thing they have now. And you see, the stuff we've known about American invisibility, Israeli invisibility, all this has been shattered. You see, if people are speculating that Iran might lose this war, there's no backing for that argument. Iran is not losing this war. If
it has the momentum.
It has the momentum. It also has the field advantage. It has the equipment advantage, the field advantage, the leverage, closing the Strait of Hormuz. They have the leverage. They also have extra leverage that, too bad for America and Israel, they have cheapened its potential adversaries of Iran. They are weak and cheap. So if you look at Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Dubai, they're just on paper. They exist on the mercy of the Americans. They are cheap, so they can't actually fight on their own. You see, if those entities had been emboldened and equipped, that they could actually fight, they can't. You see, so there's so many things in Iran's favor to win this war.
So, do you think you talked about the data bomb? Do you think America is capable of dropping it? It's the only country that has dropped a bomb, a nuclear bomb before. But do you think it can do it again?
Well, by the time it dropped it the first time, not many countries had it. Not many countries had it. To drop it now, they have to secure concessions from North Korea. The North Korea will not retaliate because North Korea and Iran are allies. They have to secure concessions that we're dropping a bomb on Tehran, but you should not use yours in response. They have to secure a concession from Pakistan because Pakistan is sort of a pseudo ally of Israel, of Iran, but they're Muslims and they love the game that because they know they're the next target. So you have to secure confidence and concession from. You have to have evidence. Pakistan has to give you assurance that will not come to the side of Iran and respond with the same bomb. So you have to have North Korea on board. You have to have Iran on board. The Chinese are very disciplined. I don't think they will use it, but you have to secure assurance from them that they will not retaliate. You see, Russia, you have to give an immense amount of confidence to the Russians that they don't come into the game, because now you've entered a nuclear war. You see, But the downside of that, every country will be looking forward to getting a nuclear weapon. Every country will be looking forward to getting a nuclear weapon. Right? So, they're lunatics. Americans and Israelis are lunatic people. I don't discount that they may not use. They may use it, especially if they're getting it, beating they're getting it for the next 7 days. But it's a high risk gamble because many other people have this bomb. Unlike 1940s when only them and Russia and the UK had it. Now everybody has it. Not everybody, but many other people have it, including North Korea, where they didn't have control, including Pakistan, who didn't have it then. And China didn't have it then. Now the Chinese have it too. And Chinese have been really working tirelessly, making sure Iran doesn't lose this war. And I'm sure the Chinese will be fast to detect that Israel and America plan to use their nuclear bomb. I'm sure the Chinese will be fast to detect, and they'll send them a warning. I'm sure the Russians will be fast to detect because you see, these are the nuclear-armed powers. It affects them. They know what happens, so they'll fast detect that now you're going to shoot a nuclear bomb. We'll send you a warning. If you do, this might happen. So chances are high they might use it, but I also think chances are high that the other nuclear-armed powers may send them a warning not to use it. And
I have seen also if Iran, in your assessment, Iran is winning, but at the end of this all, you see Iran also developing nuclear weapons.
Because you see, if the Americans don't get the madness to use it, or the Israelis don't get the madness to use their weapons, if they try to use them and they get a warning, it will be crystal clear that these weapons are useless. They're useless in the sense that to use them, you have to have every other nuclear-armed power on board. To use them, you have to have any other nuclear power on board. But if it so happens that they use this weapon, but of course they'll not drop it across it, Iran, because it's a big country. They drop it in Tehran, I guess, right? And once they do that, it will be an open bombing field because anybody can bomb Israel. But it's unlikely for me. I don't know what's in the calculation within the Iranian establishment. I think we need to figure out. They will need to debate amongst them. So I think there's going to be a big debate after this war internally. Should we actually go nuclear because it assures us of deterrence? Should we actually get the bomb, or should we? Is there another opinion in favor of not having it? Especially that it showed that our missiles are equally perfect. But I think as soon as the adversary on the other side, the American regime and the Israeli regime, if they bring nuclear into the game, then chances are highly likely that as a resurrecting Iran will definitely go nuclear.
Because North Korea, nobody in the last term of Donald Trump, he had the vote to attack North Korea, but it ended on paper. On just voting, he didn't because North Korea has got the bomb. So, but as we near ending, I have seen the global economy taking a beating. Aviation is down. No oil, no liquid gas is leaving the Middle East. And in Europe, gas increased by 50%. And I saw yesterday the Russian president say that, because Europe has indicated it doesn't want to buy Russian gas in 9 months, say you stop now. So suddenly, even gas is going to increase in Europe. So is the world ready for the economic impact of this war? And did Donald Trump, do you think, did he calculate this? Did he have it in mind, the kind of impact this will have on the global economy?
And there's something, I think the beginning part we need to ask the question, now that you're talking global economy, how are we affected as Ugandans? Is this a war we should be looking at? In some of my wildest conclusions, I think right now even local politics is useless to discuss. everybody has to be focused on the Iranian war because it means so much than discussing Museveni, Bobi Wine, or Speaker Anita Among or whoever. It means so much because this is an existential war, not just for Iran. Iran is fighting our fight. This is the last stand in modern colonialism. But this is not a war about nuclear weapons. It's not a war about liberating Iranian women. It's a war about Iranian gas, Iranian oil, Iranian sovereignty. This is the people who forced structural adjustment on us. The people who drew us into the poverty we are in are the same people attacking Iran. Because all they want is to access Iranian oil on the cheap. If not, for free. Because if you remember vividly, in the midst of discussing nuclear enrichment, this amount, they said, why American companies not allowed to
work in Iran?
Not allowed to be part of Iranian oil. This is a decolonial war. Everybody in the subaltern world has to be proud of what Iran is doing, because Iran is saying, not anymore colonialism, not anymore theft of other country resources on the ship. These lunatics went to Venezuela and picked the Venezuelan president. And they claim that, Venezuela is, smuggling drugs into America.
Now they are controlling their oil.
The entire idea was to get Venezuelan oil on the chip.
I saw your article when you were saying that Iran is fighting our war.
Yeah.
So, and our president, let me a little bit localize it. Our president was yesterday saying that Uganda will not take a side because the people involved in this are our friends. We have good relations with Iran, with Israel, with UAE, with the United States. So we will not take a, and Museveni is the president of the chairman of the non-aligned movement. So two things there. First of all, do you think the subaltern you talk about should actively support, actively maybe moral support, our president come out and say we support you, because that is also important? Or do we take the non-aligned position that Museveni is taking on the issue?
I mean, first of all, many presidents of the African continent are not presidents. They are colonial caretakers. They are caretaking on behalf of America, Israel, and Western Europe. They're not really our presidents. We never put them in power, and we don't have power to take them out of power. You see, Uganda has never put himself in power, neither do Ugandans have capacity to take himself out of power. So Museveni is effectively not our president. He's like the Smaker Kunguru of Uganda, or the Captain Lugard of Uganda. He's caretaking on behalf of the masters.
He's an agent.
So for him to cut such a posture is understandable. It's understandable. He's caretaking. He handed over our economy to those people when structural adjustment happened. He just said, what do you want? You want Lake Victoria?
Check.
Whatever they want, they have had it. So he's caretaking. Oh, I can't even take refugees. Do you want them? You bring them here. He's taking everything they want. So on the one hand, we don't have presidents. And many of these guys, not just Museveni, many of these guys on the African continent, they don't have presidents. The imperial machine put them in power. So the only language they understand is how to serve the master more. Right? So I'm not surprised that Museveni says it like that. When I say Iran is fighting our war, we'll look at Uganda way past Museveni, maybe in the next 20, next 30 years. We'll understand this. Iran was fighting our war. Because I'm telling you, the next thing Ugandans would want to lift themselves out of poverty is taking back our country, taking back our things. So to do that, we will know that that's what Iran was fighting. That's what Iran was fighting to protect. Owning your resources and getting maximum benefit from your resources. We don't have that. So, if you forget Museveni, but look at Uganda, 10, 20, 30 years, we'll understand. Ugandans will understand that Iran was actually fighting that war. The number two, when you talk about non-aligned movement, it's a useless entity, right? It's a useless entity. In moments of injustice, you can't say
I'm non-aligned.
You have to be biased. And you have to put your bias on the table. And as you know, it's my sobering contention that we're still a colonized continent. Uganda even more colonized. See, so you can't come to be non-aligned when you're colonized.
You're part of the empire.
That makes sense. You're part of the empire. And what is happening in Iran is America interested in colonizing another sovereign country. The Israelis wanting to colonize another sovereign country. And that country is putting up a stand. Say, no, you don't mess with me. We're a sovereign country. We're honorable people. You can't take over our things. So, we lost that fight a long time ago when, we got, a man who has pretended over us for 40 years. And there are many of these men across the African continent. So, I'm not surprised by those responses, right? But the point I was making earlier is that Ugandans need to be aware. There's so much, we have been miseducated as Ugandans. The miseducation of a Ugandan is one of those things that we'll have to contend with in the years ahead. The God of Israel. The God of, we all believe in the God of Israel. I'm Muslim, I don't want to take a swipe at Christians. But the God of Israel is not, Israel in the Bible is not this Israel which was created in 1948, which is a genocidal, a lunatic, a warmongering entity. That God, there's no way God will say you're going to build a country on dead bodies, genociding entire communities. God is not it's a misrepresentation of God. So we have this lunatic state with its lunatic allies, the Epstein class, and our miseducated compatriots believe this is the pinnacle of religious devotion, respect.
You saw our CDF say is going to construct a monument for Jonathan Netanyahu. I think Jonathan, the brother of.
I think it was
Aaron Jonathan, whatever the name, but Netanyahu who led an attack on Uganda, and someone was saying, but also the Ugandans died in that thing. So you hear that a lot. The Israel thing, it is at the foundation of our state.
I mean, the core component is we've been miseducated. Like we've been thoroughly miseducated as a country. There's so many Ugandans that you look at and they look very serious, but they've been miseducated. They don't understand the colonial context in which they live in. As you know, Baker, I do lots of shows in this country, and we talk politics. But every time you bring in a political economic angle, and you show how still we colonize as a country, you get all these stares from your co-panelists as if you're talking fiction. You get all these stares like, what is he talking about? So we've been miseducated, and it will take us time for us to develop a critical mass of people who actually see colonialism.
For what it is.
But also you have to credit colonialism for its genius, that right now it has sort of perfectly disguised itself. That it's so invisible. So you see a man like himself on top of you, you say he's our problem. He's our problem taking decisions, right? So in addition to our miseducation, there's so much Western spin. Every single day you encounter a thing that gives you about American dominance. The American modernity has the best thing they ever have. Every day, in cinema, in advertisement, in music, in general entertainment, we watch American football, rather European football, and it's Sevilla will be playing. Sevilla, America City will be playing, and and Man United is playing with another small village in the UK, and you find droves of people in open cinema halls watching Man City play another small village in the UK, right? Well, Sevilla and kids are playing here. We've been trapped to some sort of I don't know, sort of colonial modernity, but some sort of Americanism and Westernism that we embody. We seem to see America, we seem to see Western Europe as our friends, and whatever they do is what is real. One of the most baffling things is the language games which are being played in this conflict. We talk about Iran as a regime, we talk about America as a government. Iran has proxies, Israel has allies, right?
And I've seen, I was complaining over one of the radio stations was calling in Uganda, the Americans, the Iranian leaders and fighters, soldiers, they are called Abakambwe. Yet Israel soldiers are called Abasirikali ba Israeli. The language is when you look at the language, you see that someone has totally, because we watch, we enjoy Western media, so we have come to normalize this as normal, and the other one, whatever they exceptionalize, we do exceptionalize.
There's a humongous amount of propaganda that we have come to imbibe, and we tend to reproduce as our own. We see America as us, as the admiration,
the ultimate measure of what is good.
Yeah, what is good. You know, we've persuaded that you see a guy with a beard, not dressed in a necktie, is potential terrorist. Just a Muslim name, potential terrorist. Right? But if you ask, who in the last years of Iran's existence, they've never attacked anybody. Israel, for the last so many years I've known it, has been fighting at like 7 fronts. There's no way. You're fighting in Israel, fighting in Lebanon, you're attacking in Gaza, you're everywhere fighting. Occasionally you go and murder somebody in Iran. But they're the terrorists, they're the bad guys. Because they're Muslim. Because we don't understand their language. We don't. So it's a combination of the colonial school, the miseducation, you know, popular culture that we share, American music. We see it as the best, American football, you know, rather European football. We see this as, so this will take so much time. We will need levels of sobriety. We need to have serious people who embody these ideologies at the top.
You said now our local politics doesn't really matter now. We have got bigger things that we should be talking about. But
which are actually ours. I'm saying,
yeah.
I think I didn't develop that point well. Our local politics doesn't matter because we have big local politics. We need to see Iranian
as local problem.
We need to see it as a local problem, not just the gas question. You know, not the prices of things going up. No, that would be the symptom. We need to return to the core. What's really going on in Iran? It's a local problem.
Okay. Before that, but I know. You like Fanon and Fanon's answer to colonialism, answering colonialism or the oppressor in the same language that he's using. Do you think that is ultimately where you people in the colonial school, that is ultimately where you should be moving, that you answer colonialism? Because maybe Israel will behave much different than it has behaved before this war. Do you think?
Where do I start? I mean, Fanon is very enlightening in this case. Yeah, but I mean, there's a bigger point. If you move away from Fanon, you respond in the language of the colonizer. You see, in American politics, American foreign policy in the 60s and 70s, when they went to Cambodia, when they went to Indonesia, they supported General Suharto. When they went to Laos and Vietnam, and the strangling of Cuba, the entire idea was not to allow one single country set the example for others, that you can develop on your own through sort of socialist, communist policies, nationalization. The entire idea, if you read Noam Chomsky and Robinson, they put out a book recently, the entire idea was not to allow one country give the example. Because those communist countries were really working well. They had progressive policies, lifting people out of poverty, education, stuff like that. But the fear was that if they thrive, they set an example to the rest of the world that we can do it. What Iran is doing for us is that we may not be able to replicate Iran's, military achievements. But what Iran is doing for us is that it's going to set an example that the colonists can actually push back and can fight back and they can be lethal. So what we get to benefit from Iran is the example it's going to set for all of us. And I think the rest of the world is going to, the aggressor, America and Israel, they will be more cautious this time. After this victory, we're going to have a new world order, and Iran is single-handedly setting it. With the rest of the world, will have seen what relying on your integrity and nationalizing your resources can give you. A country which has been heavily sanctioned, such as Iran, for so many years, through discipline and grit and hard work and an ethos, which is discipline, you can actually develop yourselves and develop so much capabilities that you can stand up against the aggressor. So it's not necessarily being able to replicate, but I think we'll take so many lessons. I was giving the comparison, for example, that we have had Museveni between 1986 and now. The Supreme Leader started 3 years after Museveni started. But look at Iran and look at
how far they have gone.
How far they have gone. Because it's through discipline and grit and hard work, you can internally mobilize and develop yourselves. So I think the Fanonian case applies in the context that it applies in the context of Iran, that Iran is actually responding in the language of the aggressor. Now, some of us are small countries and we've been very disciplined, we've been presided over by colonial caretakers, so we have been unable to develop this sort of infrastructure, mental and physical. So it might not really apply. But I think the example is going to be applicable. We are taking lessons.
And the question here, we saw the other day a former presidential candidate and his people really trying to create, an impression like it was such a big thing that Mr. Chagrani was speaking to Europeans about what is obtaining in Uganda. What is your sense in seeing that countries like Iran that are resisting and part of what they are resisting, ours we are embracing? We think Museveni has been a creation of the colonialists, and now the response to him is also sought from the same people who have cropped him up. Do you think? What is your view of that?
I mean, first of all, internally, we are conscripted to pleasing the Americans. If you want power, you have to please the Americans. So internally, we've been conscripted to that sort of thinking, right? So you find the one who wants the new order of things, first you find that they are in a dilemma. They know Uganda is poor, not entirely because of Museveni, because Museveni is working for another power, and they don't know how to deal with that. You just have to go to the same power and ask that, can you depose Museveni and maybe I could take over, right? So I find that as Chagulanyi's dilemma, that for you to have actual reform in the country, painfully you have to plead to the American establishment because this man is their man, right? Although I think it's a fruitless gamble because Museveni can promise them more. You can only give them vibes. Museveni can tangibly promise them that I will do this for you. I'll do this for you. So it's a fruitless gamble. So you can give them promises and say, when I become, I'll do ABCD. But this one's already given.
You can actually give.
You can actually give. So you only give them vibes. So it's a useless gamble. And I think the next war might be in Burkina Faso, because Ibrahim Traore is setting another example for the African continent. That a junior lieutenant who has understood the ethos of global politics and the geopolitical exploitation of the African continent understands that the core beginning of liberating yourself is first kicking these exploiters away. You have to push them away, right? And I think we need to give Ibrahim Traore a chance to gamble with that, because there is absolute liberation. Kick them away. He has to try to do that to a degree as he possibly could. But we can't. It's difficult to achieve that here, right? It's difficult to achieve that here because we haven't yet gone through a revolution which promotes the ideas of absolute liberation in the context that you start to exploit your resources on your own terms. It's not that you delink yourself from the rest of the world, but the encounter you have with the rest of the world is on your own terms. I can keep my fuel, my gas if you're not paying the amount of money I want. Mm-hmm. I can keep my oil if you don't. But you see, if Total is mining your oil, you can't say, I'll not give it to you.
Because it's already mining.
It's already taken by Total. You have signed this stupid agreement. So we don't have that ethos at the same time. So among the many lessons we're getting from Iran is the lesson of absolute sovereignty, to the degree that you have to be sovereign. And I think Iran is fighting for their sovereignty, to stay independent, to have absolute control over your resources, including those internally in the marine resources, right? This Hope Strait is ours. We can close it. You see, so in that context, activists in Kampala find themselves in that dilemma. That you still have to go to Museveni's caretakers, to Museveni's benefactors, to sort of also legitimate yourself. Because they wouldn't allow you. We saw it in Egypt. We're seeing the genocide in Sudan. Because they're not happy with the potential replacement in Sudan, and they were not happy with Mohamed Morsi in Egypt, so they took him out through a coup after just 1 year, and they had him die in prison. Right, so you realize that you can only take over if they feel like you can take over. Right, so I think Ibrahim Traore is a wonderful example for the continent, and I think you need to connect Ibrahim Traore to Iran to see what it means to have good leadership.
As we finish, I saw when Donald Trump, the first communication immediately after they had launched their illegal war on Iran.
What that mean? What does illegal mean?
Illegal, an aggression. You know, their aggression on Iran. I saw him set, goals. First of all, he asked the Iranians to come out and demonstrate and overthrow their government. The opposite has happened. The millions and millions I have seen on the streets, they're actually for the resistance against what is happening. Yeah. So almost all the things he set out to do are shifting and very fast. And even in America, there is no public. There is no the public opinion is, you cannot even say divided, because it is solidly against the war. So how do we end this? How do you see this ending?
First of all, I mean, I've been following the ignorable parts of the actors on either side, right? If you look at the actors on the American side and Israeli side, they're like very hawkish people. They just talk, blah, 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 we can do this, blah, 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 blah. They're not poised. They're not elegant. They're not honorable people, right? They thrive on deception. They just make up things. Your population is saying something else, and then you make up something else and you go with it. They're not honorable. You look at Pete Hegseth, tattooed and loud, and you look at a guy, Michael Huckabee, they just speak without evidence. They just talk. You look at Rubio, you look at all of them, they just speak, including their president. They're not very honorable people. Or you look at the Iranians on the other side, they measure their words. They are calmer. They don't shout. They're patient. They exude an elegance that is admirable in men of nobility, men of leadership. If you look at the Chinese, look at the Russians, they're honorable people. They keep their promises true. Right? These people just make up things, they don't even care. Oh, we obliterated the Iranian nuclear facility in the 12-day war. Now Iran is building a bomb, we're going to go back. So you obliterated the thing. It's a couple months ago, and now you're back. See? That, we are surprised they are reacting. This is America. We expect America to have absolute intelligence to know. We expect America to have hired political scientists, anthropologists, who study Iran, to understand religious ethics, to know who Imam Husseini was, Imam Ali, to know the things. That this thing informs the the high-ups to know, if we do this, our anthropologists have told us, our political science have told us this is going to be the direction. But they were acting like, oh, we're surprised. Oh, we're surprised. You know, the guy called Witkoff, he said, surprised we're moving all our heavy gadgets. These guys are capitulating.
They're not breaking.
What type of people are these?
You really don't like them.
They're empty. It's an empty talk, cheap talk. They're very hawkish. There's no elegance. You look at the Iranians, they're elegant.
You really don't like them, do you?
I'm just telling you, I'm quoting them. What type of people say this when they mean this? What type of lie in the same breath? What type of people are they? Who people don't keep their word? What people promise this and something's happening and they're like, what is the biggest, fakery with their treasury? And they were asking Iran for a ceasefire, right?
And then turn it around so that Iran is asking.
Look at the Israelis. They're bombing their neighbors and wanting to accuse on Iran. What type of people are these? What people are these? They're not elegant people. They're not noble people. So if you ask me how we get out of this, is that, I pray Iran gets such a victory that at some point the Israelis have to beg for ceasefire and openly state so. They have to explicitly say, we are the ones asking for a ceasefire, not them. You see, because now they're blinded. It's going down the way, not the way they planned it. But, the shock on their eyes gives them away. They have to ask for a ceasefire. And now Iran will be dictating the terms of the ceasefire. At some point, I bet what Iran has demonstrated to the rest of the Arab world is that American bases are useless. They don't protect you. In fact,
they invite trouble for you.
What America did was to move all the gadgets to protect Israel. And they've been claiming this entire time. These are allies. You see, I think this country will also, finally they'll become dignified people and say, we need to build ourselves and exist on our own terms. I hope as we are taking lessons from Iran as Africans and other people from the rest of the world, I hope the Arab world is taking lessons from Iran, that we can actually build independently without relying on some country which is many, many miles away.
And finally, I have seen one of the things we've been talking about, the discipline, the elegance, it is coming from somewhere. So Iran has got a political order, Islam at the center of the politics. Do you think that it's time for countries to start rethinking their kind of political order, because it takes some level of discipline to have what Iran has been able to do? So do you think it is this wholesale taking of everything Western provides and everything that it does not provide? It is so many bad words that are said about it. Do you think that it's time for us to rethink exactly what kind of system we want to have? Because we see elsewhere it looks like it's crumbling. The American order is crumbling. Iran has provided, and Iran is providing an alternative that is different from what the Americans are providing, which looks like is so deformed and it's causing all these troubles.
You know, one of the biggest lies of our time is power belongs to the people. Is the lie of democracy. The idea of democracy is a discipline which is bereft of morality. Yet humans exist as moral beings in the first place. You know, I think when people anchor themselves morally, it's better for them. You see, you could say the Chinese are irreligious people. They're not religious people, but they have a stronger moral ethic, which gives them cohesion and discipline and order. Right? This is the exact opposite of the American modernity, the American Western European modernity, which thrives on chants of human rights. They just chant, they just shout, human rights this, but they don't believe in all that stuff. So they're bereft of morality. They don't have an anchor, right? You see, in the Islamic tradition, for example, not everybody can lead in something supposedly simple as prayer. Not everybody leads, so you have to choose the best amongst you to lead. And there's a criterion. The best amongst you is the one who is most knowledgeable. But if all of you guys are the same level of knowledge, then the one who is older. If all of you are the same age, then the one with bigger responsibility. So there's order. It's not by who is most popular. It doesn't work like that. Because if you say who is most popular, somebody can buy popularity. Somebody can start dramatizing making so popular. You're inviting entertainers to be in the leadership positions, right? You look around the rest of the so-called Western modernity. Entertainers are in power, right? The biggest entertainer on the other side is Mr. Donald Trump. His entertainer is their president. So they are bereft of a moral anchor in their politics. It's a politics bereft of morality. And it's interesting, you know, I was telling a friend about, for example, pornographic consumption in the Western world. You know, did you know that by 2006, every day, or maybe give me the annual figure, America produces 13,000 pornography films every year. 13,000. That is 35 movies every day. Every day in America. Think about it. Every single day in America, they produce 35 million pornography movies, films. In 2006, the amount of money that the pornography industry made was more than Google, eBay, Yahoo, Netflix, Earthlink put together. They made over close to $100 billion in that year, put together. 40 million films are streamed into American homes every month. See, these are people bereft of morality, bereft of anchor. This is why there's an Epstein modernity. It's the Epstein class. That's why they have pedophiles who don't care about raping children or murdering children. Right? I'm telling you, you know, earlier today I saw Iran taking prisoners of war. And I was confident 100% that Iran is not going to kill them. I was confident 100% because they're moral people. They've taken prisoners of war. There's an ethic on how you treat prisoners of war. I was 100% sure Iran is not going to murder them. And it's going to treat them with dignity.
And you can't say the same.
And I'm sure in the hearts of the American prisoners of war, they know these are honorable people. They're not molesters. They're not rappers. They're not beaters. They'll handle us as prisoners of war. Now we know.
And God is chosen people.
We know,
Are the opposite of that.
Israelis prisoners of war. You know the extent in which they come back. If they're not dead, they come back when they don't have their intestines, when they don't have their insides. They come back when they're molested and traumatized. You see, so you're looking at two diametric opposites. Are people with morality and are people without morality. This is why, corruption is part of the capitalist modernity. Like capitalism is a criminal modernity. Like corruption, fakery, telling lies, cheating is part of capitalism. You don't have a thing called trade-based invoicing. But inside the system, you integrate cheating. That you can call cheating misinvoicing. You give it a good word, misinvoicing, and it is acceptable. Misinvoicing. It's such a term, You don't have things like, what's the word? Planned obsolescence. That you create a gadget with a shorter lifetime. So that people can come back
and buy.
This is like theft integrated in the model.
So you keep the system running.
You keep the system running. You see, these bulbs used to last for like 10 years. They make sure after 2 years it is dead. So you remove components. You don't make it to perfection. You remove components which give it a shorter lifespan, so that people can come back. This is why the environment, our country, our world is in the mess it is, because we're overproducing. Because you see, these idiots made sure that you have a thing called planned obsolescence, that a product is planned to fail after 5 years. So you buy a Macintosh, a very expensive computer, but in it they plan that it has to die after 5 years. A machine which ideally would take 10, 15 years, they plan to collapse after 5 years. It's planned, so you have to go back and buy. Now, going back and buying, you're going to throw this to trash can, you're creating so much trash, then you're buying, and then they have to extract it from the environment to create more. You see, so these are people we're dealing with. It's a capitalist modernity, democratic modernity, bereft of morality. It's absolute mess to, it's an apocalyptic world, right? So governments across the Western world, across the subaltern world, have to take lessons. You can't build like that. You can't. They have to take lessons. You look at sort of a Iranian political arrangement. Not everybody is elected through universal adult suffrage. What type of nonsense is that? You never find a thing in this country. I was laughing. I keep returning to this. That we are in a country where you have to teach people how to tick a ballot, like katiko inaka kuwa one. But then you expect them to have studied the NRA manifesto.
Yeah, to be able to make the right choice. That Museveni is the better candidate of the other.
But they can't even tick it.
How to... They can't do the basic.
They can't tick a ballot.
You burden them with the idea of choosing.
It's just like a circus. We sign up, and then we start saying, Electoral Commission services are so all of a sudden, Electoral Commission becomes a teaching institution, teaching politics.
And then what kind of choice are they going to make?
What type of choice are they going to make?
If they can't do the basic, the physical one.
What type of going to voting power? You see, if actually their voting even counts. So in Iran, to be serious, somebody has to grow in the ranks to say, now you've reached a level where you can revert to the table of decision makers. We have seen you as a local council chief. We've seen you go to school. You got a master's degree. You got a PhD. You served in the military. Now you come here. You can sit with us. This is why every individual who shows up to speak on behalf of the Iranian government is very highly credentialed and exudes an ability that you expect of a leader. Very credentialed. If you check their profiles, PhD in this and that, officer so and so, they served in this capacity before they became. Right? It's only in this country they have people who are entertainers and they are ministers the next day.
Yes.
You see?
You don't become...
From organizing music shows, now they become ministers. From being guilty president to minister. from being a news reporter at Parliament, then minister. Like there's no growth. You can become minister. I saw young boys in their 20s standing to join the Central Executive Committee of
the NRM.
Boys in their 20s.
The epitome of the NRM. The Politburo, where you have the ideologues, where you should have.
It's because they can. So if they got enough money, and they can buy.
But maybe it is that also that Politburo is also empty because anyone can join it after all. You know.
I agree. It's empty. It's empty, and I think one of the searches we'll have to do, I think in the next 10 years, is a search for seriousness. We'll be looking for serious people, but I think it takes so much time that we need to build sort of the personnel, the infrastructure personnel, which will be able to say, we need people to go through this before they become this. And I said to a friend of mine one time that, you know, the first 5 years of a new government has to be autocratic. It has to be
able to build back better.
Yeah, it has to be autocratic, but with the goodwill of people. This business of whoever comes will have to be democratically elected is rubbish. The next government has to be autocratic. It has to be the communist system. It has to be the Idi Amin system. It has to be Gaddafi. It has to be North Korea. It has to be Chinese Mao Zedong. It has to be all those things where we see governments have been able to build. The first 5 years or first 10 have to be an autocracy built on ideology and discipline. You know, people like myself who have a big mouth maybe may not be in that country, who may go to exile, but it will be necessary for that country to build with force, not through appeasing people democratically.
That's what we've been having Yusuf Serunkuma speak to us, and I'm sure we are going to end it here because we've touched today. The only topic was Iran and a little bit of how it relates to Uganda. He's told us that we should not see it as an Iranian war, but it's a Ugandan war because it is home on many fronts. Those you can think about and those you cannot, or those that require people he's talking about to clearly understand that it is a war that is affecting them. We want to end it here and thank you for watching.